So hello friends, in this session I'm going to explain the first unit of block 1 of course ms23, that is human resource planning. So what are different things I'm going to cover in this, so that's what I will explain. Okay, so as you can see on your screen, uh, the name of this block given basics of human resource planning. So whatever basic concepts related to human resource planning, so those things we will cover in this block. Okay, so the first unit here, it is written introduction to human resource planning system, the emerging concept. It means we will talk about some concepts related to human resource planning system and what are different kinds of emerging concepts are there, so those things also we will cover up. So here the first given, that is introduction. Okay, so I think now it is clear. So this is the first introduction. So human resource planning means HRP is a deliberate strategy for acquisition, improvement and preservation of enterprise human resources. You can see here. What is this one? Deliberate strategy. It means human resource planning is a kind of a strategy for acquisition, improvement and preservation of enterprise human resources. Clear? So it is a kind of a strategy. Human resource planning, it is a kind of a strategy for acquisition, improvement and preservation of human resource of an enterprise. It is a managerial function aimed at coordinating the requirements for an availability of different types of employees. So here this involves ensuring that the organization has enough of right kind of people at right time and also adjusting the requirements of the available supply. So you see what it involves. So human resource planning involves ensuring that the organization has enough of right kind of people at right time. Okay, it means it involves ensuring that the organization has enough of right kind of people at right time. Okay, so that's what it is about, the basic concept here given about human resource planning in introduction. Now if we move the next point, that is given why is human resource planning important. So what are different reasons due to which human resource planning we consider as important. So here given human resource, you see from here I'm starting. Human resource planning is important for helping both organizations and employees to prepare for the future. Okay, so why it is important? Because human resource planning helps both organizations and employees to prepare for the future. So that is the reason we consider human resource planning as important. But the question also arises that if we, so it is about the few for planning or preparing employees and organization for the future, but we know that future is not certain. Okay, so we cannot say that what it will happen in the future with surety of 100%. So yet why we consider human resource planning as important? So many reasons are there. So that's why here written, are not things always changing? So we know that everything is changing in the world. So what is the value of planning? If everything is changing, so we know that we cannot be 100% sure about the future. So then why we are planning for such things in the organization? So even a prediction that is sometimes wrong is better than no forecast or production at all. So sometimes maybe the predictions are wrong, but predicting for the future, it is better than not predict, or if there is no forecast as compared to no forecast. If we forecast something or if we predict something about the future, so that is considered as better, and that is better as compared to when we do not forecast, we do not consider think about the future. So that's why human resource planning is important. So given next, something applies to human resource planning. The same thing applies. So whatever is given now, just like here, something may go wrong about the prediction, but maybe sometime right, sometime wrong, and sometime right. So that's why there are chances that sometimes we may get a correct result, or results may be better. So that's why we predict about the future. So that's why here written the same thing applies to the human resource planning. The same thing here happens. Even though neither organizations nor employees can look into the future, making predictions can be quite helpful, even if they are not always accurate. So prediction about the future is helpful for both employee and the organization. So that's why human resource planning is important. The basic goal of human resource planning is to predict the future. So that's given. The basic goal of human resource planning is to predict the future, and based on these predictions implement programs to avoid anticipated problems. Okay, so it means here the basic thing is that to predict the future, and on the basis of that prediction we are going to implement different kinds of program related to human resource in the organization. Next, given 1.3, meaning and definition of a human resource planning. Human resource planning is the process by which an organization ensures that it has the right number and kind of people at the right place at the right time, capable of effectively and efficiently completing tasks that will help the organization achieve its overall objective. So I'm going to break the whole definition into different parts so that understanding it is going to be better. So human resource planning, what is this? A kind of process. So what kind of process? By which an organization ensures that it has the right kind of people, right number of people at the right place and at the right time. Okay, right number of people, right kind of people, and at the right place and at the right time, and those people should be capable of doing tasks to help the organization achieve its overall objective. Okay, it means right kind of people, right number of people at the right place and at the right time, and those people should be capable of effectively and efficiently completing the task that will help the organization to achieve its overall objective. So that is about human resource planning. So it means ensuring these things. So is a subsystem. Human resource planning is a subsystem in the total organizational planning. Okay, means we plan in the organization. Okay, so under that plan for the whole organization, inside that plan, human resource planning is also a kind of subsystem of planning. So organizational planning includes managerial activities that set the company's objective. So what is given? Organizational planning includes managerial activities that set the company's objective for the future. Set the company's objective for the future and determines appropriate means for achieving those objectives. You see, so what it is about organizational planning, it includes managerial activities that set the company's objective. So we set company's objective, future, and determines appropriate means for achieving those objectives. Okay, so these things come inside organizational planning. It means deciding what are different kinds of objectives are there, how those objectives can be achieved in the organization. So if we consider and if we plan for that, then that is called organizational planning. Human resource planning, here you can see So here human resource planning is variously called manpower planning, also personnel planning or employment planning. So these are different names of the same thing, that is human resource planning. Need for planning. So why there it is need for planning? So first point given, the need for planning arises mostly due to the fact that modern organizations have to survive, operate and grow in highly competitive market economics where change is the order of the day. It means the organization is functioning in a completely dynamic, you can say, world or a complete dynamic environment. So that's written here. The need for planning arises mostly due to the fact that modern organizations, so whatever organizations are existing nowadays, so those have to survive, operate and grow. Where they have to survive, operate and grow in highly competitive economics. Okay, and highly competitive economics meaning there is continuous change. So that's why there is need for planning. The change may be either evolutionary. Okay, so change means whatever changes are going on in the environment, so those changes may be evolutionary means here slow changes, and or it may be revolutionary, means sudden change. The different area of change includes change in technology, change in population, change in economic structures and systems, change in policies of government, change in employee attitudes, behavior, etc. These changes these changes create problems. So whatever changes are going on all around the organization, inside the organization, outside the organization also, so those changes create problems. Many different kinds of problem arise when changes happen for the management. So what are these problems, threats and challenges? So management get management gets threats also and challenges due to these changes. Manager have to bear the problems. Managers have to bear the problems caused due to the changes and act upon them tactfully in order to avoid or reduce the effects of these problems on the survival, operation and growth of the organization, on an organism, you can say here also. So managers have to bear whatever problems are going to come due to changes. So those things will have to bear by the management, and the managers will have to act upon them tactfully in order to avoid or reduce the effects. If they are not going to, if managers are not going to act tactfully to avoid or reduce the effect, then in that case there will be chances that survival may come under threat. So that's why they should act tactfully. Thus, there is a greater need for planning in order to okay. Thus, there is a greater need for planning in order to keep the organization dynamic in a changing situation of uncertainty. Okay. So, greater need for planning in order to keep the organization dynamic in a changing situation of uncertainty. So, if used properly, it offers a number of benefits. So, if planning is done properly, then it offers a number of benefits. So, what are these benefits? Creates reservoir of talent in the organization, prepare people for the future, expand or contract, cut cost, succession planning. So, these are the benefits of human resource planning. If we plan for the human resource in the organization, then these benefits we can get. So different types of plans given. So first types of plan given: philosophy, the organization's role that they wish to play in society in terms of philosophy. So plans may be on the basis of what role the organization wish to play in the society. Second, given types of plan, given purpose. So for what purpose the organization is going to plan. The second thing here you have the purpose. If every kind of organized group activities or operations has a purpose. Okay, so the planning is also for particular kind of purpose, objective. So if we are planning, then there must be some objective. So HRP, human resource planning, has also some kinds of objectives. So the aims towards which organization activities aim. And so what the organization wants to do, towards that planning should move. Strategy, determining. So strategies, determination of what the basic long-term objectives of an enterprise, and the adaptation of courses of action and allocation of resources necessary to achieve these goals. You can see here determination. Strategy means how the organization is going to make plans for long term. Okay, so those things come under strategy. So that's why written here determination of basic long term objectives. So what are different kinds of long term objectives the organization has? So that according to that also organizations plan. Policies, general statements, general statements or understandings which guide or direct thinking and action in decision making. So policies also help you, the organization, to plan procedure and rules. So what are different procedures are going to be implemented or going to be used, can also influence the way the organization plan for the future activities, programs. So these are complexes of goals, policies, procedures, task assignment, rules, step to be taken or sources to be employed and other elements necessary. So you see here that these are complexes of goals, policies, procedures. So what are different kinds of goals, policies, procedure, task assignment, rules, steps to be taken or resources to be employed and other elements necessary to carry out a given course of action. So these all come under programs. Okay. Budget of budget, simply the statement of expected result in terms of members. Different types here given. It means these are different types. Means we plan in terms of budget, we plan in terms of programs, we plan in terms of procedures, we plan in terms of policies. Okay, in terms of strategy, objectives, purpose, philosophy. So that's why written types of plan, types of given here plans. Planning process. So you see here the planning process is influenced by overall. So if I zoom out here, so then it will be clear. Influenced by organizational objectives and the environment of business. Okay, so whatever human resource processes are going to be used. Okay, so those processes are going to be influenced by the objectives of the organization and the environment in which the organization exists. So that's why here you can see in this diagram you have the organizational objectives and policies, HR programming. So these are the things. Simple thing you can keep in your mind, that human resource planning processes are going to be influenced by the objectives of the organization and the environment in which the organization has to function. So here HRP involves forecasting human resource needs, assessing human resource supply and matching demands supply factors through human resource related programs. So here the process involves, human resource planning process involves forecasting, means forecast the number of people required, assessing next, for example here involves forecasting here number one, then second here assessing human resource supply, means how many numbers of human people are required or needed, and then the second given how many number of people or employees are available, and then according to that third given matching the demand supply factors through human resource related program. So here it means how many required and how many are available. On the basis of that, if we match through different kinds of human resource programs, then this is the process of human resource planning. Okay, this process, I think you got. The process of human resource planning is that forecasting the human resource needs, then assessing human resource supply, means how many people are available, and then matching the demand and the supply of human resource or the number of people required. Next given forecasting techniques. So what are different kinds of techniques we use because forecasting of human resource that comes inside human resource planning process. So this is the first. So what are different kinds of techniques we use? First given the managerial judgment. Second technique which we use for forecasting is ratio trend analysis. Third given work study techniques. Fourth given Delphi technique. Fifth given flow models, and sixth given others. So now you see here in the left hand side written in the next unit. So in the next unit we will go into details of these all techniques of forecasting. Now next given HR demand forecast. So what is this one? Demand forecast is the process of estimating. What is this? This is the process of estimating the future quantity and quality of people required. So how many people will be required in the future and what kind of people will be required in the future. If we estimate that, so then that process is known as what? Human resource demand forecast. The basis of forecast. Why there is need for forecasting? The basis for the forecast must be the annual budget, the long-term corporate plan translated into activity levels for each function and department. So according to, now you see, if you have annual budget and long-term corporate plans, then according to those corporate plans you need people. Okay, so if you change the corporate plan and if you change annual budget, then according to that you have to change the number of people required and the kind of people required. So that's why here in case of HR demand forecast, we consider these things as the basis on which the forecast of HR demand are done. Next here given point, here you see demand forecasting must consider several factors. Okay, when we forecast the demand of people, then we must consider many things. So both external as well as internal. So we must consider the external factors also when we forecast the requirement of people in the organization, and internal factors also. So external factors, so here external factors are competition, economic climate, laws and regulatory bodies, change in technology, and social factor. So these are external factors. So what are these? Competition, economic climate, laws and regulatory bodies, change in technology, and social factors. And second, internal factor given. Internal factors include budget constraint, production levels, new products and services, organizational structures, and employee separations. So are these are going to come under this internal factor. So budget constraint, it is related to uh, the organization, production level, how much the organization is going to produce. Also the internal factor, new products, so what are different kinds of products and services are going to be provided by the organization, that also come in in internal factor. And HR supply, so demand forecast means HR demand forecast, then now supply forecast. So supply forecasting measures the number of people likely to be available from within and outside of an organization, often making. So now you see, I'm going to explain by breaking the whole paragraph. So here given measures. So what it measures? So human resource supply forecast measures the number of people likely to be available from within and outside of an organization. How many people will be available in the future at a particular time in the future. So that is about human resource supply forecast. And when we make a forecast, then we consider many things, just like making allowance for the absenteeism, how many people are generally used to be absent, internal movements and promotions, wastage and changes in hours and other conditions of work. So by considering these all things, if we make prediction, or if we measure the number of people which will be available in the future, then that is human resource supply forecast. So next here given new venture analysis. This technique requires planners to estimate HR needs in line with companies that perform similar operations. Okay. So new venture analysis means if any organization is going to plan to estimate HR needs, and if that organization consider, so with similar organization which is present in the industry, how many number of people are working there. So according to that, if such predictions are going to be made about the requirement of the people, then that will come under new venture analysis. So first approach, many approaches we use in human resource planning. The first approach given, examining external and internal issue. So we must examine the external and internal issues affecting human resource planning. Okay. So external issues also affect the human resource planning, and internal issues also affect human resource planning. So what are these internal and external issues? See, external and internal issues are the forces. What are these? The forces that drive human resource planning. So those factors influence, or we can say those factors drive human resource planning. It means in which direction human resource planning is moving. So that will be decided by these external and internal issues. An issue is any. So what is this one? I here explain the internal and external issues drive the human resource planning. So first we must know that what it is issue. An issue, you see here given. An issue is any event or trend that has the potential to affect human resource outcomes. Okay, it means any event or any happening in the organization or outside the organization, or the trend which is inside the organization or outside the organization, if these things have the potential to affect human resource outcome, then those things will be considered as issues. Such so here, such as employee motivation. We know that employee motivation affect or we can say employee motivation has the potential to affect human resource outcomes. If employees are motivated, then the production it will be more, or you can say service it will be better. And if the employees are not motivated, then in that case, uh, the production outcome will be less, or the service provided by those employees will be not good. Then turnover, so high turnover will be there. Absenteeism, because if more people are absent, then that will affect the that will affect the output of the organization, the number and types of employees needed, and so forth. So what are different kinds of people and what number of people will be required. So these things have the potential to affect human resource outcomes. So that's why these things are considered as issues. So external issues, you see, external issues are events or trends outside of the organization, such as workforce, demographics, and technologies. So now you see, workforce, demographics means these things are outside of the organization, which have the potential to affect the human resource outcome. So that's why these are known as external issues. And the second given here, internal issues, so events or trends within the organization. So what are different kinds of trends or events are there inside the organization which have the potential to affect the human resource outcome. So that's why these are called as internal issues. So what are these internal examples are given, such as business strategy. So business strategy, it is decided by the organization, so that's the internal issue. Organization's structure, so what kind of a structure the organization has, that is also an internal issue. And company profitability, also the internal. External issues, so now I'm going to explain in detail about the external and internal issues. Okay, so first external issue. So the inside the external issue, the first thing which we need to consider is workforce demographics. So what this workforce demographics meaning? So demographic meaning how many number of people and what kind of people are present in the workforce, so that it will comprise the workforce demographics. So here written, specifically important external issue is the composition of workforce. Okay, composition of workforce means how many women are working, how many men are working, and what kind of those workers are from which country or from which race. Okay, so these are considered external issues, and this is under the external issues, this is workforce demographics. So here given, Asian will comprise a large percentage of the workforce in the future. So that is also the thing which we need to consider when we plan for the human resource. Women are also expected to comprise a large segment of the workforce in the future also. Again, means Asian are going to be larger in the number in case of workforce, and women are also going to comprise a large number of segment of workforce in the future. Increased participation of women will have a pressure. So now you see how demographic change will affect the way organizations plan. So here given one point, the increased participation of women will have a pressure on organizations to provide pro-family policies such as flex time and childcare to support working mothers. So now you can see here, with the increase in the number of women in the organization, will pressurize the organization to change the way it plans for the human resource. Okay, so for example, if more women are going to work in the organization, then the organization will have to make policies which are going to be more supportive to women. And the second external force given technology. We know technology is changing very fastly. So human resource requirements have come down drastically due to technological change. So many things are automated. Okay, means and many more things are going to be automated. So there will be less requirement of people for operating the organization or for making the organization to function in a proper way. So that will also affect the way organizations plan. So those 2 points we need to consider, so which come from the external issues when we plan, and internal issues just like organizational structure. So many business today are changing their organizational structure. Okay, many organizations are changing their organizational structure. If organizational structures are going to change, then different kind of people will be required, and different number will be required. So organizational structure refer to how work tasks. So now you see, organizational structure refers to how work tasks are built, how work tasks are assigned, who reports to whom, how communications and decisions are made. So these things comprise organizational structure. Means who is going to report to whom. Okay, and what kind of communication channels are there among different employees in the organization. So these things comprise organizational structure. Second internal issues which should be considered when we plan, that is business strategy. So second, given the approach that company adopts in conducting business is referred to as its business strategy. The approach the company adopts means what kind of approach the organization should adopt. So that will also affect the way the organization is going to plan for the human resource. Then next here given second step of human resource planning, that is the second approach. The first approach it was the first approach it is given examining the external and internal issues. Okay, now it was the second approach, the second step of human resource planning. Okay, so in case of second step of human resource planning, we determine the future organizational capabilities. So in case of first approach, what we did, we consider the issues affecting human resource planning. What are different kinds of issues are there in human resource planning that we consider?